Well, hello, I'm Joanna Clark with Blissful Baby, and I am also on the board of a grassroots organization called WO3, whose mission is to partner, promote, and support other amazing female-owned businesses, specifically in the month of March. And so I am delighted to bring you Lisa Duerre of RLD Group. Thank you, Lisa, for being here.
Joanna, thanks for having me, and thank you for all that you do with WO3 and Blissful Baby. It's important. I'm happy to be here.
It is. Women-owned businesses are the future. And so I am so glad to be here to interview you because you were doing so many things. So let me tell you guys a little bit about RLD Group and Lisa Duerre. She is a 20-year Silicon Valley tech executive that has a mission to create workplaces that work for all and to avoid burnout prevention. Okay, right? Can everybody relate to that? And she is also an advocate for lipedema. And we are going to talk about both lipedema, which you've maybe never even heard about, very important because it's something, a medical condition that can be triggered during pregnancy, which is one of the reasons why I want to talk to her today, because in my community, all I do is talk to moms that have had babies. And she's going to talk about workplace burnout and making a workplace for all. So Lisa, thank you. Let's start with the first question because a lot of people probably don't know. What is lipedema?
Joanna, lipedema is a misunderstood and often underdiagnosed condition that affects 1 in 11 women. It is characterized by what I would say is disproportionate fat. So many times this disease is existing in people's bodies, including me. And for years you're told to, move more and eat less. And lipedema does not respond to calorie restriction or exercise. So if you have been moving more and eating less, and perhaps your legs are larger than the rest of your body or your arms, I have it in both, perhaps your buttocks, it could be lipedema. There's a lot more that I can share with you about how it presents in the body, but it is an underdiagnosed, misunderstood disease that is many times just thought of as being fat.
And it affects 1 in 11 women.
1 in 11, yeah.
Which I want you all to be thinking about that for a second. If you're in your workplace, 1 in 11 is actually probably undiagnosed with this condition. So can you tell us a little bit more about what it looks like and how someone might be feeling if they have it, especially if it's undiagnosed?
Yeah, I appreciate the question so much, Joanna, because the thing that I want to say about lipedema is it is what we know today. Okay, is it takes on average 40 years for a woman to be diagnosed. So I just want to let that sit in for a second because it doesn't respond to calorie restriction and exercise. It takes you 40 years to get diagnosed. I think we all pretty quickly understand the psychological, mental, and physical components of what we're talking about here. So it is what we know today is that it is usually witnessed and seen with hormonal events. So puberty, pregnancy, perimenopause, menopause, and gynecological surgery like a hysterectomy. And so when your hormones are shifting, you're not thinking, do I have a disease called lipedema? You're like, why do I feel weird? And why is my body changing? And why is this shape happening? And we tend to just chalk it up to, stress eating or, postpartum, right? In your world. And there's so much more here. So I just want to say that if your body has shifted and you have disproportionate fat tied to one of those events, it could be lipedema. The second thing I would say is that it's really interesting in that some of the telltale signs are things that nobody talks about, at least in my experience, I didn't. So getting my blood pressure taken has always hurt, but I never understood that it doesn't hurt everyone, right? It's called painful fat. That's another way to discuss this disease, right? The second thing I would say is that one of the things that's really obvious, at least in my situation, was it doesn't affect your hands or your feet, but you'll have a cuff like you can see here. See how wide my arm is getting? Now I'm in advanced stage, but my forearm has always been bigger. So, but my hand doesn't look puffy, right? There's nothing going on here. Same with your ankles. So ankle cuffing is another thing. And many times we hear from lipedema ladies, at one point I could wear those boots all the way up to my knees and then they just quit fitting. or maybe they never fit if you had early onset in puberty. Um, so if your boots don't fit, you might not be fat. It could be lipedema, right? Now, I'm not here to say that obesity doesn't exist too. It does, right? I have both going on in my world right now. But might I show you a picture just so we can see like on legs?
Yes, I
Yep.
think it's really important for people to understand. Again, while Lisa's pulling this together, I just want to emphasize, okay, 1 in 11 women are undiagnosed, or excuse me, 1 in 11 women have it.
Mhm.
Most women are undiagnosed. And the reason why they're undiagnosed is it takes 40 years for a diagnosis to present itself. And it's a progressive disease, which means that it can be initiated at any hormonal shift period. So it could start in puberty and keep going. It could start at pregnancy and keep going. It could start at perimenopausal and keep going. And because if it's a progressive disease, depending on when it started on board on you, you're going to be moving through the disease state. And through that time, if you're undiagnosed, you are thinking, oh, I'm just really overweight. I can't lose weight. My boots don't fit. It's painful when people hug me. It hurts to get my blood pressure. Oh, I'm not good enough. I can't, so like it's psychologically, you're just thinking you're dealing with obesity and you're just not a good enough exerciser or a good enough eater. And that's not what's going on at all. And so, because I work with moms that are obviously have had babies or multiple babies, right? That this is such an important health thing to become aware of because pregnancy is what triggers it, you guys, right? So, and it could be the second pregnancy or the third
Yeah.
pregnancy, right? So, can you show us that picture that shows the progressive nature of the disease so that people can understand?
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that too. And I'm going to show the picture, and this might feel like we're anticipating what we're about to do, but I want to say something about your audience, Joanna. Your child sitting on your lap, your pet, your cat standing and kneading your legs, your kids hugging you tight or wanting, to roughhouse and it hurts. This is painful fat, right? And so you might just think, oh, wow. Or if people have ever said, why are you too sensitive? Why, that doesn't hurt. Well, it does hurt. So I just want to say, especially when you're raising children and doing all the things you do, bump yourself in the kitchen. If you get bruising and it doesn't make any sense or your bruises last a long time, that's another one.
Right.
So
Those
let
are
me show you
all
the,
like kind of like hidden symptoms, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one of the
Yeah.
postcards that the Lipedema Project put out. And you can see the stages as they advance.
Yeah.
Right. And that doesn't mean this is puberty, pregnancy, perimenopause, menopause. It can all happen whenever it does. But one of the things I think is important to presence is, can you see the cuffing right here at the ankles? Right? The feet are spared typically. And you can also see sometimes it's higher in the thighs than it is in the calves. And there's things you can do to not have it progress here. But if it takes you 40 years, right? Imagine if we knew 20 years ago and we could catch it here when it starts.
Right.
So, Lipedema Simplified, Lipedema Project have these postcards, QR codes, and they also have, this is for you to give to your doctor. Do you have patients that look like this? And this is if you have a friend or a colleague or a coworker, or a massage therapist or anyone else that, looks at legs. Perhaps this might be useful in those offices too.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
So yeah, actually, can you shout out that Lipedema Simplified? Can you tell us a little bit about that organization and how you
Yeah.
got involved because you are an advocate for them now?
Yeah, so Lipedema Simplified and Lipedema Project are wonderful resources if you are thinking this may be you or someone you love or someone you care about. Lipedema Project is the research arm, and they actually rolled out a documentary called The Disease They Call Fat. If you watch that movie, you will see patient experiences, doctor experiences, and the reason it takes 40 years is doctors don't know what this is. So they just don't understand. They just are told in medical school, if you look like this, you're fat, right? I'm simplifying.
Yeah.
So we have to help doctors understand as well. So Lipedema Project is the nonprofit research arm and where they built the documentary. Lipedema Simplified is the patient community where, much like everything else, working mom groups or anything in between, patients get together, receive support, and look at a holistic way to manage the disease. To
Right.
manage the disease.
It's,
And
it's
that's how I figured all this out was the help of those two. So shout out to Catherine Seo, the amazing team, women-owned business, doing phenomenal work in this world.
exactly. Okay. So you're a woman, you're in the workplace. Okay. and you have a medical condition, right? Maybe you end up with, maybe you have this, or maybe you have any other medical condition that is very trying for you.
Mhm.
Mental, physical, emotional, etc. All of it matters. And you are a working professional, you're probably a mom, and you feel like you are in burnout. You're in burnout, or you have this medical condition that is increasing the burnout that already existed. And this is where RLD Group comes in, right? Because if you are a woman, and I'm probably a mom, that is burned out or has a medical condition that's exasperating the burnout, how can she talk to her managers right now? It's a
Mhm.
very sensitive topic.
Yep.
What can your understanding of working with leaders all day long, especially in Silicon Valley, help us understand how employees can talk to their managers?
I really appreciate this question because, I mean, RLD Group stands for Rebooting Leadership Drive. And one of the things I can say is I have the burnout t-shirt more than once. I burnt out from working in tech. I burnt out when I became a mom. I burnt out as an entrepreneur, and I burnt out as a lipedema patient. All kinds of burnout happens. So what I can say is that, first of all, you're not alone. It's an epidemic,
Yes.
and you're not broken. You're depleted. There's a
Yep.
huge difference.
So
You're
true.
not broken, you're depleted. And so the most practical thing you can do right now first is give yourself some grace, and then grab a piece of paper and write down everything that's, brain dump everything that's on your mind, and then just let it sit for a minute and then prioritize what matters most. Because sometimes people just keep thinking I can push through and push through, and that's just not realistic. So you have to prioritize what matters most. And you might have to have different lists: what matters most at home, what matters most at work. But fundamentally, you have to allow yourself grace first. Now, there's all kinds of tools, mindfulness tools, hydration, sleep, all the self care in the world. But what I know, when you're a burnt out mom who has a full time job, you think, I cannot do one more freaking thing right now. And so the best thing I can say is to give yourself grace and start to prioritize and make sure that you're on that list. For me, that took me a long time, and I should have caught it a lot sooner. And we just keep pushing through. So I'll pause there and see if you have a question that comes with that, Joanna. But fundamentally, I think the greatest gift we can give ourselves is to relabel ourselves from broken to depleted, because
Right.
that shift alone empowers you to take action.
And I think that that is a very important distinction. And I think the other distinction that's so important is to, we use the word burnout a lot,
Mhm.
and it isn't, it's been overused to the point that it's just expected that you would be burned out. Or that if you got burned out, well, that's just what happens.
Mhm.
And what I would like to be able to reemphasize today with somebody that, in your situation where you are working with leaders every single day, organizations and leaders can't or run the organization with burnout. And the employee, there is no pushing through, right? There's a level of depletion that carries you deeper. And so for me, as a woman business owner that supports mothers to get sleep, most of the moms that come to me have already been on a path of burnout before they have the baby. And then when they have the baby and the baby isn't sleeping, um, or there was a regression with sleep, the burnout exasperates. And so now we have two problems. We've got a crisis in the family system because now we have sleep deprivation and overwhelm on top of the burnout. And then we start having trickle effects inside the family system, right? Um, Parents are, or husband and wives are grumpy with each other. The child is really fussy and difficult to parent. The mother is beating herself up, thinking that she's not good enough. Why can't she get organized? Why can't she get it together? Why can't she figure this out? So there is this terrible ripple effect that goes along with sleep deprivation, overwhelm, and probably a touch of burnout. And I think the work that your organization does is so important, is to bring to the forefront that burnout is real and it's not something to be ignored in the workplace. So for leaders that you are working with, right? You have your clients are leaders who are interested in making a good workplace for all. Okay, so shout out to those. Shout out
Yes.
to those.
The heart-centered leaders in tech, right? Wanting to make a workplace that works for all. Indeed.
Right, right? Like that is like the that is a good leader, right? That is a good organization that realizes that there is important work to be done in this realm and
Mhm.
that it benefits everybody. So can you tell us what leaders are saying and doing and why they're coming to you and what kind of help you're giving them so that people can have that point of context on the responsibility that leaders have to actually look at creating a workplace for all and to be tending to this burnout epidemic?
Yeah. So, a couple of things that come to mind when you're talking. First of all, when I say make the list and recognize you're depleted, that is the tip of the iceberg, right? Um, what I can tell you for sure is that working women, especially new mothers,
Yeah.
the way that corporate America treats you is unacceptable. There is absolutely a massive problem when it comes to take a couple weeks off and get right back into work. You are a different person. Your body is different. And now you are responsible for a human being, and your family system has changed. So until we start to recognize and presence that, we're not getting anywhere. Okay. So I just want to say to the woman who I'm saying you're depleted, that is the greatest gift you can give yourself, is to recognize the depletion, because then you can get to creativity of how might I prioritize, push back, ask for flexibility, etc. So we have that going on right now in the workplace. The leaders we work with, the organizations who are truly about making a culture of well-being in the workplace, we have a model called firm leadership, and we stand by command and control doesn't work anymore.
Mm,
Command and control is what leads to burnout, right? You are not curious about the other person. You do not have a flexible work environment. And if it's just get it done and push through, that's how we got here.
yes.
So if we keep doing what we did, we're not getting anywhere. So one of the things that I invite the leaders that we work with is to play to people's strengths. So the foundation is strengths-based leadership. What are people good at? What energizes them? The second thing is to co-create and listen at scale, where the organizational team members bring their ideas forward and actually you implement them. And that requires a different skill set, right? So firm in our world stands for flexible, intuitive, resilient, and mindful. And that doesn't mean you don't make decisions or you can't drive the company forward. Flexibility means in your approach, in your mindset, in what you're prioritizing. It doesn't mean everybody works from home and you're just sitting there feeling like you have no power. It's being flexible in your approach.
Yes.
So, one of the things that I know for sure is that leaders who are firm in the
Mhm.
model as we're talking about are creating cultures where the person, the team, and the organization is being looked at through that lens. And I believe that's the antidote to burnout.
Excellent. I love that. And it's again, it's so important when we think about working mothers today. Again, whether you are have a medical condition, a mental health condition, you are suffering from burnout. There are organizations, people, and places that are really caring about your well-being. And RLD Group is one of them. And in fact, if you guys want to learn more about what Lisa does, she is epic on LinkedIn, right?
That's my
Lisa,
favorite platform. Yeah.
her favorite platform. She also has a podcast. All of it's going to be linked below. But it's if you want to learn more about all the amazing things she's doing within organizations to improve the leadership, and you want to learn more about lipedema, then finding her on LinkedIn is the way to go. Now, what I love to do at the end of these WO3 interviews is part of the WO3 mission is to partner, promote, and support, which I'm doing today with Lisa. But I love to carry it one step further and have the female-owned business that I'm interviewing to give a shout out to one or two organizations or women-owned businesses that you love that you are wanting to partner, promote, and support today?
Women supporting women, Joanna, right? Women supporting women. So, yes, if I could give a shout out, first of all, I want to give a shout out to you because every time anyone asks me, who should I be talking to? It's you. I mean, you are phenomenal and gifted. And I know the transformation that happens with the clients you work with because we've had the conversations as business owners. And I've also been delighted to be coached by you as well, right? I consider you part of the team. You are a part of the team. And I think it's really important to highlight that. The another group that I'd love to highlight and give a shout out to is an organization called Women Back to Work. So for the audience that you serve, especially important because women sometimes to prevent burnout or get out of burnout, you take a break.
Yep.
You take a break.
Yep.
Okay. When you take that career break, what runs through your head? How am I going to be technical again? How am I going to get back in the workforce? And all this energy starts running. I just say, stop it. You do you, what matters most right now. And when you're ready to go back, Women Back to Work is an organization that we partner with to help women who have had a career break re-enter the workforce back into tech. They
Amazing.
have wonderful programs. They're amazing. And I think one of the antidotes to burnout is allowing ourselves to feel like we don't have to do it all. But at this season, at this moment, this is the priority. And
Right.
that matters.
Right. And that there's no scarcity, that if you have to move out of the workplace, there are other organizations such as, tell me the
Women
name
Back to
again,
Work. Women
Women
Back to
Back
Work.
to Work, that are ready and poised to help you with that next transition. So
Yep.
move from one season to another, and there are organizations like that. So thank you. And then also you had another shout out, I believe, with
Yeah, I think we did it already. So the Lipedema Project and Catherine Seo, the work that they're doing to raise awareness about lipedema is amazing. And it is my distinct honor to be the workplace advisor when it comes to creating a workplace that works for all, especially with misunderstood, unseen, or hidden disabilities or chronic illnesses, because we all want to contribute. We just need an environment that we can actually thrive in. So yeah, shout out to Lipedema Project as well.
excellent. Well, thank you, Lisa. This has just been amazing. I learned so much today, and thank you for sharing all your knowledge and your gifts and for making the workplaces best for all.
Oh, thank you, Joanna.